One great way to liven up discovery with customers is to use a whiteboard. It sometimes surprises people that discovery conversations, maybe even more than presentations, lend themselves to the use of whiteboards. It's a fantastic way to get the customer involved and to engage the visual and tactile senses as well as auditory. So if you haven't used whiteboards for discovery, first off, it's easier than you think. And second, you'll like the results. So let's dive in. In terms of preparation, I won't spend a lot of time on the room and materials and setup. I will just say, make sure that the whiteboard is functional and clean. Make sure the pens have plenty of ink and they look good when you write. If you use oversized notepads, those can be fine too. Just make sure you have wall space to stick them on if you go beyond the first couple pages. By the way, I've had these kind of conversations where I've done it just with a paper and pen, and that can work surprisingly well also. Just make sure that the materials you have are clean and functional. Whiteboarding can also be done virtually, which is fun. In fact, there are some great tools for it. Chances are whatever conferencing software you use, whether it's Zoom or Teams or Google, has built-in whiteboarding functions. There are plugins you can add if you want to up your whiteboarding game, but get used to those, get comfortable with them. Lastly, in terms of preparation, it can be really helpful to draw the story elements in advance. So the time you spend during the discussion can be used for filling out those elements within them or the content within them rather than stopping mid-conversation to draw the framework out to begin with. So then let's go into what are you actually going to do? What does that framework, the story, look like? I'll share a few examples that we found to be really useful. The first we call the chasm. And this is kind of fun because the way you draw this out is a little bit like drawing the Grand Canyon. You have a big cliff on each side and a big gap in the middle. And on the left side, you want to have the current state. So I'd write that in above the first side of the chasm. On the right side, you have the ideal state. And in the middle, maybe slightly offset and down below, are the challenges. And this can be fun as you have this conversation to uncover their current state, uncover their ideal state, uncover the challenges that keep them from that ideal state. And then as the conversation progresses and as you have opportunities to teach them, you can actually start to draw the bridge of what it would take to get them from where they're at to where they want to be. So that's a fun one. The next we call the funnel, and this is going from the big picture of what the company is trying to do and narrowing that down through the organization that you're working with, into the project that you're dealing with, the details that go along with it, the people, budget, timeline, and so forth. So that can be a really great way to do that. And that syncs up with a lot of discovery worksheets. So a lot of times there's not a ton of work to do to prepare that because it already flows with how your organization has probably mapped discovery. The last one we call the mountain, and this is a fun one. It's similar to the chasm, a slightly different visual, and it opens up a couple fun opportunities. So with this one, typically you've got on the left side, you have their current state. This is our point A. That's the base of the mountain or the base of the trail up the mountain. And then the mountain goes up to the right where the peak is and their point B, their ideal state. That path in between then is what you look at in terms of what needs to happen to get them there. What makes this one kind of fun is that for those of you that have taken our point C training, you'll be aware of this, but this opens up the conversation of what if there was something better than that top of the mountain? What if your point B isn't the ideal? Or what if your vision could be reshaped to see something even better? What if there was technology you didn't know about or opportunities you didn't realize existed? It opens up fun future thinking conversations. So you have the chasm, the funnel, the mountain. There are plenty more, but there are lots of great ways to map this out for a fun conversation. So the last thing that we'll talk about, since we've talked about preparation, we've talked about the story elements, the most important thing when you're whiteboarding a discovery conversation is to let the customer write. You lead the conversation, but let the customer fill in the details. We have a phrase that we like here that if I say it, it's debatable. If my customer says it, it's fact. So we want them writing those facts. We want them being the ones filling these out as often as possible. Let them actually write the answers down. This works really well with one person, but it becomes a thing of beauty when you have multiple people on the customer side that are writing down answers. It sparks great discussion and commentary. It gets you exactly what you want from a discovery conversation. So let them write, and then you follow up with additional questions. You keep that writing going. Your core discovery doesn't change. If you've been through the modules that outline what's going on in core discovery, whether it's the mechanics of how you ask the questions or the framework of how you organize them, those same rules apply when you're whiteboarding. The whiteboard simply becomes a different medium for capturing the customer answers and engaging them in the conversation. So prepare well, know the flow and the story of the discussion, and let the customer write. I recommend that you look for situations where using a whiteboard might take your discovery conversation to the next level. Customers love this, by the way. Plan it out. Maybe even arrive early in some cases to create the scene and the visuals. If you have some artistic talent, this can get even better. This is one of the absolute best ways to get your customers involved in owning their situation, in communicating it to you and even within their own organization effectively, and to teaming up with you to solve it. Plus, you'll find that whiteboarded discovery conversations are just more fun. Enjoy.